Hello everyone, it's nice to see all of you. My name is Charlie Perlman. I was on the project team that went to Madagascar this past year, and along with Emma Palmer, I'm going back this coming year for the 2017 Madagascar project. So as you can see up here, this was our final project. We were working on a rainwater catchment system. So I'm going to take you through the project from this past year, and then a little glimpse of what's in store for this coming year. So as I mentioned, I was on the project team for the rainwater catchment system. What that means is that after designing and fundraising for the project throughout the school year, I got to go to the country and work on construction. So we were working in partnership with local contractors who taught us everything along the way. So by the end of it, we were experts in sawing, nailing, shaping rebar, making framework. And that was what we did Monday to Friday for 6 weeks. And then for the rest of the time that we were in the country, we got to experience the Malagasy culture. We lived in a village called Monanteno, which had 1,000 people in northeast Madagascar. So that picture is one that we saw every day walking home from work. The little kids quickly found out what time we came to school and left from school, and would hold our hands and scream a bunch of Malagasy sayings that we didn't really know what they were talking about. But you can tell with kids that they were super excited to be with us, singing and chanting our names to and from work almost every day. So this was our travel team. It was me along with 7 other Duke students and 1 former Duke student as our project site supervisor. We came to work every day at the school. This is their primary school. It is the sturdiest building in the village, because if the catchment system building collapsed, then we would have a tank with no water. So we built it on the sturdiest building, which was their concrete school. And so this is where we came to work every day, and the school kids came to learn there. Additionally, we did get to experience Malagasy culture, which means seeing some lemurs. So we got to see them in their natural habitat in Marijeji National Park, and also in a breeding park in the capital, where we got to get up close to them. And then the 2 closest relationships we made were with our guide, Donatien, who spoke the most English in the village, was the smartest, wittiest person, and our 2 cooks, Lex and Primo. They were master chefs. They tossed us a constant diet of rice and beans, and Primo's specialty, banana flambe. So that was the real treat. Now I'm going to take you through a construction, the process that we went through over the 6 weeks. So the first step in building the tank was building the lid, because the way we were going to go about it was building the tank, and then at the very end picking up the lid, which had completely dried, and putting it on top of the tank. So we went ahead with the framework and the rebar cage, and then left a little hole in the center of the lid so that you could get into the tank and clean it out. And we poured that concrete, etched the date in, and then let that cure for the rest of the trip. And then we got started with the framework. So the framework was 4 posts that we dug down, I believe 80 centimeters deep into the ground. We built the rebar cages to support 20 centimeter by 20 centimeter square foundation posts. And as you can see in this picture over here, a lot of the concrete thus far was all roughly the same dimensions, which was really handy. We got to reuse our wooden framework pieces. The plus, the cross you can see, is what our contractor called the belt. So he only spoke French, and the best way he explained the belt was that it prevents north-south and east-west movement. So he said it gets rid of this and this. So we did not want our tank shaking around. So that's why we built the belt. The next step was what I call the donut of the base of the tank. To make curved pieces of wood, we had to machete planks. So that was another skill that the Malagazys were fantastic at, and it was a bit of a steep learning curve, but we macheted those circles all the way around. And to get a flat level, to get our tank perfectly flat, they had a plastic pipe with water, and then Bernoulli's principle gets you a flat level. And so we etched with a nail in those logs a perfectly flat level across the whole work site, and so we could put our tank on a flat plane. Then we worked on the disc of the base of the tank, which is just 18 slats of wood. To get the curved ring pieces, we took long planks and sawed little slits into them, just enough so that they would bend, and then nailed those into place. And then we got to work on the large amount of rebar that went into the walls of the tank. So there's a grid on the bottom, and then vertical pieces that went all the way around on the inside of the wall and the outside of the wall. And then there are also rings that dropped into the inside and dropped into the outside, all of which were tied. And then we got to pour the base of the tank, finish tying the cage, as you can see on the right. And once the cage was all tied, we got to work on the framework for the walls, which consisted of tons of thin vertical slats that were nailed into place around guide rings. And so we made one for the outside of the wall and then a ring for the inside of the wall, cut them in half, and then picked them up and dropped them into the tank. So at that point, the walls were ready to pour. So we poured the walls, let them sit, and then took off the framework a few days later. And then we slapped on the cement, which was a task that took quite a lot of touch. It's a lot harder than I expect. You see him just slap it on. So we slapped it on and smoothed it out. And we have our clean tank all the way around the outside. And then the most strenuous part of the project was putting the lid on top of the tank. So throughout the process, the construction men had been helping us learn some of the construction practices, asking us, like, how do you think you do this step? And then we got to putting the 1,000 kilogram lid on top of the tank, and they asked us, how do you think we're going to lift the lid? And we're like, I don't know. What do you guys have in store? And like, we don't know either. Let us know if you have any ideas. And so they didn't have any cars or anything we could pick it up with, and so we had to lift this 2,000-pound lid. We got to use wooden beams as levers, and with the help of some woman in the village that were walking down the street, lifted the lid onto the tank. The gutters to get the water into the tank was pretty simple. That was just trimming the sheet metal roof and nailing in the plastic gutters and some piping to run it into the tank. There's also, coming out of the tank, an overflow from the top of the tank that runs down underground into the river, and then at the bottom there's a flush valve in case they want to get out and clean it for any reason. And then there's a little monument in front of the tank, and that's traditional Malagasy style, where they have the spigot. So the water that they drink comes from the tank through the monument and out the little faucet. So that was our work week. On the weekends, we got to experience the culture. We saw soccer games in local villages. My favorite part was the trip to the national park. Marojej National Park is home to primary and secondary forest, a huge list of species, endemic species to Madagascar, including the rare silky sifaka lemurs. We went to an Environment's Day celebration at a village a few hours away, which was a long list of local government figures giving speeches with their platforms about the environment and how they care about the environment, which was our best understanding from the translator the whole time, because we didn't understand much of it. And then we got to go to Simbava, which was a town of 30,000 people right on the coast of the Indian Ocean, eat at local restaurants, or go shopping in the street markets, and even swim in the Indian Ocean. And then we got to go to the breeding park for lemurs in the capital. So this is a little map from Google Earth of the village. So the rainwater catchment system was built at the school, which you can see in the bottom right. And then the village runs all the way through the center of the map up to our house, which is on the top of the hill. You can't quite see the elevation, but the whole village runs up that hill towards our house. And so as you can kind of see from the map, it's a little bit of a trek to get the water. The tank holds roughly 6,000 liters of water, but for the people that live in High Village, it's still a little bit of a trek to go down through the village, across the river to the school to get water and back. And so when we were talking to village elders, the Fukantani, or president of the village, and the woman of the village, one of the things that they stressed that they were really looking forward to is having water taps. which is something we frequently saw in surrounding villages. And so for the next year, our goal is to bring them a working water tap by the end of the summer. When we talked to them, they had ambitious wishes for 9 or 10 or 12 taps, like 3 for high village, 3 for middle village, 3 for low village. But we want to be able to leave this summer with a working tap and then leave it in place for future summers to work on a distribution system, getting taps throughout the village, and putting tanks along the lines. The source of water is up above our house, so it would be tapping a spring near the pond above our house, piping it down to the village for the villagers to drink. And this was something that the woman really stressed would be important to them. On top of clean water being so much healthier for them, they spend a lot of their day, mostly the woman, cleaning, bathing, and fetching water for cooking. And so providing them with clean, healthy water that's close by not only reduces the spread of diseases, but also liberates a lot of their day so that they can be more productive and do what they want to do.